The German economy is on the brink of catastrophe. It's about to do something that will either save the economy or will completely destroy it. This is the biggest gamble the German economy is taking since 1945. The German crisis is so big that most of you cannot possibly fathom it. It might seem like an exaggeration, but if you give it a closer look, it is way worse than most people imagine, and it's almost impossible to save the economy. So let me give you the facts and you can make up your mind by the end of the video. So if you're ready, give this video a thumbs up and let's get right into it. The German economy is going through a stagflation, and this stagflation doesn't seem like it will stop anytime soon. It has been going through consistent recessions. There has been a recession in 2023. What is a recession? 3 negative consecutive GDP growth. It happened in 2023, in 2024, and there is a likelihood that it will happen in 2025. However, on the other side, prices are growing all across the globe, especially in the European Union. So if your economy is contracting while prices are growing, that is a stagflation, and that is one of the worst things that could possibly happen to any economy. And the projections for the economy aren't any good. The most optimistic projection for 2025 is 0% GDP growth. Imagine your GDP grown by 0%. That's what we consider great because it is better than contracting the economy. The forecasts for 2026 and 2027 are about 1%. But these are forecasts. So many things could happen in 2026 that could again wipe out the entire German economy. Now, to realize how big the crisis is, you simply have to ask yourself what exactly happened to COVID money. Germany, like many other nations, also printed so much money. In the US, it led to a huge GDP growth, and in many other nations. But in Germany, we don't see that effect. The German economy is still in a state of a stagflation. When you compare the German economy to the US economy, that's when you understand the tragedy. Because over the last 10 years, the German economy has grown by 16%. Now, that seems like a reasonable growth, but that is a catastrophe when you compare it to the United States that has doubled over the exact same period its economy. And that's why if you just put it side by side to other major economies, you see that German economy has been stagnating while the rest of the world is growing. And Germany is not just another nation, it is a manufacturing powerhouse. It has always been one of the major economies in the world. In fact, the manufacturing output over the last couple of years has been consistently declining, especially since 2019. There was a plunge in 2020, however, it recovered, and maybe after that it should have stayed at the same level. However, since then, every single year it's declining and declining and declining. Factories are closing down, factories are producing less, factories are firing people. And it's also very clear on the number of bankruptcies that has been consistently rising since 2021. If you're not producing anything, you're not making any money, you cannot pay your people, you cannot close your payroll, you are going to just file for bankruptcy, which is exactly what has been happening with the German economy. And Germany is the main driver of the European Union. So it is very dangerous for the entire European Union because if Germany is going to go down, remember, there is not going to be any kind of European Union. And if anybody believes that European Union can function on the shoulders of the France, for example, then these people are delusional. The European Union will completely dissolve if the German economy is going to collapse. And there are two reasons for that. The first and the fundamental most important reason that Germany is going through an energy catastrophe. This is not a crisis. This is a complete energy catastrophe. I cannot possibly call it in any different way. We can divide German energy pre-2022 and after 2022. Since 1970s, Germany and Russia has been building infrastructure to import cheap Russian gas and energy from the heart of Russia to the heart of Germany. And that's what allowed German factories to turn a profit. That's what allowed German factories to operate efficiently. But since 2022, when the conflict in Europe started, Germany started moving away. It was forced to move away from Russian energy and started buying expensive energy from Norway, Netherlands, and most importantly, from the United States. In fact, Donald Trump is insisting that European Union should buy $250 billion worth of energy from the United States over the next 3 years, and the bulk of that purchases most likely will come from Germany. That is something that Germany is completely not satisfied with. Just to give you a perspective how expensive energy is in the European Union, especially in Germany. Natural gas prices right now, and have been over the last couple of years, 3 times than the United States. 3 times, not once, not double the price, but 3 times. And now you can answer the question why it became so unprofitable to manufacture things in Germany. But if you compare it, for example, with oil prices, the situation isn't any better. For example, the German gasoline prices, like gas prices, is about $2 per liter, while in the United States is about 95 cents. Now, a single gallon is 3.8 liters, which means that the price of a single gallon in Germany is $7.6. Do you see the tragedy? Imagine you going and filling your car with gas and paying $7.6 per gallon. I think most of you will not even drive your cars. Secondly, you're just going to go and just sell your car and buy a Tesla or any other electric car, because $7.6 per gallon, that is, you have to be a really rich person to afford that. Now, remember in 2022 and 2023 when everybody was complaining about how expensive gas prices are? That's when gas prices were about $4. In 2023, they were already less than $3, and now they're about $2, while in Germany it's about $7.6. Yes, for the average people in Germany, it might not be a big deal, because Germany has a very, very efficient public transport. You can take the train, you can take the bus, so prices are not that expensive. However, if you're a business, you're running a factory, you have your trucks, you have your business, you have cars, you have an entire infrastructure, and that infrastructure runs either on natural gas or oil. And if the prices of those things are rising dramatically, your profit margins are shrinking. And remember, when you're manufacturing things, you have instant fixed cost, and the cost of goods when you manufacture things is much more expensive than when you're selling, for example, a software where you don't have to incur additional costs with every single extra unit of product. And that's why it's so harsh for the German economy. In fact, manufacturing is the backbone of the German economy. If anything happens to manufacturing, then the entire economy collapses, because this is, for example, the German economy, and at the heart of it is manufacturing, high tech, or cars, planes, or whatever. If this industry, which is the main industry, is going to suffer, every other industry that is linked to manufacturing is also going to suffer. And that's why you see so many bankruptcies in Germany. That's why you see a stagflation in Germany. In fact, the United States, once upon a time, was, for example, a manufacturing powerhouse as well. But the US economy has started moving into a tech-driven economy. We also have China and India that are replacing the European Union because they have lower energy prices. So imagine the same thing is being manufactured in China and Germany. First of all, China has a cheaper labor cost than Germany. Secondly, China is massively buying Russian oil and gas at a fraction of the price than the European Union and getting huge discounts. The same thing with India. And now, where do you think it's much more affordable to produce things? In Germany, where energy prices are so high, or in India and China? And Chinese quality over the last 20 years has risen so much that in some cases, they are even better than Germany. Of course, not in all of them. And that's where the second problem is. This is probably the biggest failure of Germany over the last 70 years. You see, German engineering has been an echelon of success. A German car is literally just is an engineering excellence. If you pick up a BMW or a Mercedes, it is far better than Tesla or any other car. Just feels better. However, manufacturing is a very competitive industry. Other countries have emerged, such as India and China, and now they're also manufacturing things, and it's much easier to manufacture things than get into a tech-driven economy, than produce, for example, software companies. And that's why 20 years ago, you would see BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes at the top of the list. And now German companies have been moved away, and the list is dominated by Tesla and Chinese companies such as Xiaomi and BYD. And probably in 10 years from now, these three companies will even lose their position in the top 10 largest companies. And Germany, for example, it should have moved into a tech-driven economy. Just like the United States, it was a manufacturing powerhouse, and then we realized that with internet and software, we can become more efficient, we can become more productive. And that's why, for example, if you look at the top 10 largest companies in the United States in 1990s, you would see ExxonMobil and other manufacturing companies. Today, the top 10 largest companies are tech companies. Nvidia, that designs chips. Apple, yes, it also manufactures iPhones, but it's mostly a software company. Then you have Meta, Google, and so on and so forth. And Germany should have done the exact same thing over the last 20 years, but instead, it did not do that. It did not build a tech sector. I mean, just name me a single German tech company. You can't possibly do that. There might be a few of them, but they don't have like a serious global presence. And that's why when China and India came out and they started manufacturing things, they started competing with Germany. And now Germany has to compete in manufacturing because it did not build or it did not use its prior resources to build its tech sector. In fact, building a tech company in the European Union and especially in Germany is so insanely difficult. They did not build the infrastructure to attract talent. So it's entirely the fault of the German government. And now they're facing even another problem where they're using the market in the United States because Donald Trump has imposed huge tariffs on the European Union. And that's why Germany is desperately trying to find alternative markets. You can't build a tech industry overnight. I think there are going to be some serious changes in the entire government of Germany and the structure of its economy to attract talent so that finally Germany will be building tech companies. Otherwise, there is no way you can actually win in the 21st century. Even take China. China has entered into manufacturing. It started manufacturing things and competing with Germany. It literally manufactures everything that Germany used to manufacture. Take solar panels. Germany was really great at producing such technologies. Now, there is no way that Germany can compete with China. There is no way. It's not going to happen. So tell me one industry in manufacturing that China is not competing with Germany and even winning. You can't do that and nobody can do that. And that's why Germany is taking a huge gamble. It wants to revive its economy. It wants to give it another breath. It wants to literally make it and turn it around by relying on debt. So Germany over the last 30 and 50 years has been financially responsible compared to many other developed countries. And that's why Germany has some of the lowest debt to GDP ratio at around 60%. In the US, it's over 100%. The UK has over 100%. France, which is neighbor of Germany, has probably 114%. But Germany has been very financially responsible. No, we cannot afford that. We're not spending that money. We're not going to borrow to grow our economy. We are going to work hard and build our economy. But now Germany is changing that. The latest legislation or the latest budget that they have passed is a new stage where they're no longer going to be limited by these restrictions. And German government will be borrowing more and more money to invest in itself, to rebuild its infrastructure, to attract talent, and so on and so forth, so that it builds up its economy and finally will be able to compete. Now, the only way for Germany to compete is to build a very strong tech sector. With manufacturing, you cannot possibly do that. You can keep your manufacturing sector, but now you have to build also a tech-driven sector so that at the top of the largest companies, we would see German huge tech companies such as Apple, Nvidia. That's a huge gamble that Germany is taking. If in 5 to 10 years Germany is not going to achieve that, it will only find itself with a huge pile of debt. And from then onwards, Germany will have to allocate a huge portion of its budget to paying the interest on its debts when it did not achieve those goals. The same thing is happening with the UK, France, and the United States. Whether the German economy is going to succeed to build a tech-driven economy or not, it still remains to be seen. But until then, there are going to be so many companies that are going to dominate AI, that are going to dominate the tech sector, that are going to grow into $5 trillion companies, $10 trillion companies, maybe even $30 trillion companies. And you cannot leave your fate and miss this opportunity. And that's why, unlike the German government, you should start investing and buying the stock of those companies that are most likely going to dominate this industry. And if you want to know what are the top 5 stocks to buy right now, then check out the first link in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.